Abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages. What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down-the-middle network. It obviously is not. It never has been. And you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have... I just asked you a question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine. Frankly, I find this whole thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book? If you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't care. I don't frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
And I've never heard of you until I briefed myself for this. But that's not the issue. You have a new book out.
Then why the hell are you interviewing me, sir?
It's an interesting book. But my point is, your book claims that
society... Well, it'd be nice if you would quote it from time to time.
Your book is... Well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book claims that society is turning its back on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah,
what are those values? What are the values it's turning its back on?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse now, Mr. Shapiro.
BenShapiro fiercely defends banning abortion after 6 weeks, rejecting claims that it's a return to the Dark Ages. He argues that science confirms life begins at conception and deserves protection. During a heated BBC interview, Shapiro accuses the journalist of bias, questioning their supposed objectivity. When the journalist pushes back, Shapiro grows frustrated, dismissing the debate as unproductive and criticizing the interviewer's motives. Ultimately, he cuts the interview short, declaring that personal critiques and attacks don't concern him.
It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would certainly hope that Israel is killing more Hamas
members. This isn't a conflict. This isn't a conflict. This is one-sided ethnic cleansing.
So, again, I'm just asking you, if based on the numbers, more Germans died than Brits in World War II, did that mean that the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits. Based on the numbers, does that mean that Britain was wrong in World War II?
Britain wasn't bombing civilians. There's a clear difference. You should talk to the people in Dresden, but you can't because...
BenShapiro confronts a pro-Palestinian Oxford student in a heated debate over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The student argues that the disparity in deaths between Palestinians and Israelis proves the IDF's actions are unjust. Shapiro pushes back, invoking historical context and comparing it to British and German casualties in World War II. He challenges the notion that body count alone determines moral wrongdoing, stressing the distinction between military operations and the intentional targeting of civilians.
Good try. You have to bifurcate it. Did she deserve the honor? Probably not. Is she brave? Of course she's brave. Those years invested as this sports legend. To come out transgender is horribly difficult. It is the most difficult thing you can do. I've been overseas. I've flown helicopter missions, surveillance missions. I've been shot, stabbed. Being brave is being yourself. And being transgender is about the bravest thing you can do. Did she deserve the award? Yes.
Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Bruce Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male with the exception of some of his sperm cells. It turns out that his is male. It turns out that he still has all of his male appendages. How he feels on the inside is irrelevant to the question of his biological sex.
I don't agree with that. I'm not on that train. I'm not on that train. She wants to be called she. I'm going to call her she. I just have a problem with the message and the messenger.
So well, let's I'm going to do two things. I want to reiterate what Zoe said, which is the bifurcation of the courage to come forward after a lifetime as a male and a certain kind of a male versus did she deserve this award? Listen, the awards, what are award ceremonies except an opportunity to catch some eyes?
Especially the ESPN.
So, yeah, it's like ESPN, well done, ABC. Yeah. They did exactly what their job was, attract eyes. They did it. That's what award ceremonies are for. But in terms of the science behind gender dysphoria, you're very familiar with that, Zoe.
Very familiar.
It's not about the chromosome, the chromosomes within our
both know
nuclei. Yeah, go ahead.
Chromosomes don't necessarily mean you're male or female.
Gender.
With gender
identity. Go ahead. No, so
especially, but even so, you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics? Or
well, no.
What are your genetics?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well, but wait. To be fair, you're actually being rude.
You're
and that's not fair.
I'm sorry, it's not rude to say that someone who's biologically a male is a male. Someone who's biologically male is a male.
But Mr. Shapiro, you knew very well that saying that to Zoe would be egregiously insulting.
BenShapiro engages in a heated debate on gender identity with a pro-transgender advocate at Oxford. The discussion delves into the courage of coming out as transgender, with comparisons to military bravery. Shapiro challenges whether Caitlyn Jenner deserved the award in question, emphasizing the distinction between biology and gender identity. The debate intensifies as both sides clash over genetics, gender dysphoria, and the scientific arguments surrounding chromosomes. Tensions rise as perspectives on respect, identity, and science collide.
You have claimed that you oppose medical transitioning for these children, namely and specifically to what normally happens is puberty blockers, which you have called you called it child abuse. Is that correct?
It is. That's correct.
You consider it You consider it child abuse. You consider it child abuse because you believe that a child is not capable of consenting to what you consider are irreversible procedures. Is that correct?
A damaging, irreversible procedure.
Damaging, okay. Ben, are your children circumcised? Did you circumcise your children?
Yes, I have two sons and they're both circumcised.
Why would you do that? Isn't that kind of hypocritical?
Nope, I'm circumcised. My works just fine.
Why? Let me... Why is violating the bodily autonomy of an infant acceptable to you? And I can say, I'm a owner, and I can tell you, there's sensitivity right there, Ben, that is removed when you do a circumcision. Why is that okay to you?
Well, I don't mean to get personal, but I'm sure it doesn't seem like you could possibly have a basis for comparison. You can't be both circumcised and uncircumcised. You're going to have to choose. As far as the efficacy of a penis once it's circumcised, if you wish to get into the biology, I'm perfectly happy to just point at my 4 children. I've been fruitful and I've multiplied. It's all working out just great. As for the notion that it is a grave violation of bodily autonomy, I can tell you there are millions of men across time who've been circumcised. This is not a quote-unquote damaging procedure in the same way that, taking a boy and shooting him full of estrogen so you can later cut off his penis and is. That's an absurd comparison on every level.
BenShapiro delivers a powerful rebuttal in a debate on medical transitioning for children. When a college student compares puberty blockers to circumcision, challenging Shapiro's stance, he firmly defends his position. Shapiro argues that hormone treatments and surgeries for minors are irreversible and potentially harmful, unlike circumcision, which he claims has been widely practiced without comparable consequences. The debate raises critical questions about bodily autonomy, ethics, and the broader societal impact of these medical interventions.
I really wanted to thank you for coming out today, and specifically for talking to those who have different viewpoints than your own. I'm not looking to argue with you, I just want to know about the ideology as to why you think that a woman shouldn't have the right to her own bodily autonomy in regards to abortion.
A woman should have the right to her own bodily autonomy, but not to kill another human. But as far as the idea that I'm sitting awake at night thinking, how do I control women's bodies? No, not really, not at all, actually. The thing that I do care about is the preservation of human life. I don't have an argument that pro-choicers are ignoring a premise. That's fine. You're allowed to ignore a premise or think a premise that I'm giving is wrong. It turns out that the vast majority of women for literally all of human existence have engaged in childbearing and rearing, and it has not, in fact, ruined their lives. In fact, married women with children are, by poll data, the happiest women in America.
All right, thank you for the straw man fallacy. Thank you.
I missed what she actually said. What was it? Straw man?
Straw man fallacy, I think.
You can't just shout straw man and run away. Do you want to come back and explain why it was a straw man or no? Okay, you're just going to run away.
And Shapiro engages with a pro-choice student who challenges his views on abortion and bodily autonomy. He firmly states that his position is about preserving human life, not controlling women's bodies. Shapiro also highlights that throughout history, many women have found fulfillment in motherhood. the student accuses him of using a straw man. Argument, but leaves without elaborating, leaving the debate open-ended.
Goldberg saying that when Donald Trump becomes president, he's going to disappear the gays. Are you kidding me?
On day one, I'm going to be a dictator. I'm going to take all the gay folks, I'm going to move you all around and disappear you. If that's the country you want, you know who to vote for. If that's not the country you want, you have to make a decision.
Maybe the decision is between somebody who says wild and crazy things, but actually did the president thing kind of well, and somebody who sucks at the president thing.
How much more can you stink?
In a heated debate, Whoopi Goldberg stunned the room by openly declaring that she doesn't care about President Biden's mental or physical state, as long as he's not Trump. She brushed off concerns about Biden's ability to govern, stating, "I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. I don't care if he pooped his pants." While critics questioned Biden's debate performance, Whoopi defended him, pointing to his resilience after past criticism, including his approach toward Kamala Harris. She argued that, despite his flaws, he has led a productive presidency. Critics see this as proof of partisan bias, prioritizing opposition to Trump over Biden's competence. Supporters, however, view it as unwavering loyalty to a leader they trust to deliver results. This debate highlights a deeper divide. Should leadership be judged by performance or perception? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated.